did get a diagnosis from a rheumatologist, and it was discovered that I have an autoimmune disease. What it meant for me was that I was reacting poorly to some of the foods that I was eating, and those foods were giving me inflammation. So no matter how hard you train or how much you swim or how many yoga classes you go to, if you're continuing to eat foods that trigger inflammation, you're never gonna feel well. Brought in my poop and my pee and my saliva. We drew some blood today as well, just as a part of the continuing education. Let's get some more answers. Let's find out what might be going on inside of me.
We did a full health discovery with Todd, so we analyzed blood, the urine, the stool, DNA methylation, but specifically environmental toxicity and how your body processes toxins. The reason why you got all those tests, so we can actually help you and figure out the why. So now, when you say what you should eat and you have a profoundly clean diet, but now you're gonna know anything else that may cause you to have inflammation. You go and you seek after the top nutritionist or a doctor that prescribes you nutrition, but they never run a test on you to see what you should or shouldn't eat that's going to provide you inflammation. You then follow something that someone tells you to do with little knowledge, not your fault, but from the physician or the doctor's fault or the nutritionist or the dietitian, and now you're following a plan that's probably not right for you for 2 to 10 years. The problem with medicine is they just want to stick you in a box. You got 10 boxes and, oh, Todd, there's a box right there. It's not that simple. And autoimmune disorders are created in the person's body, so they can be cured by the person's body, but we have to find why. Why are you having an autoimmune disorder? And I think that it's a double-edged sword. You're in line at the pharmacy and you got 17 medicines in your pocket, one thing to cover up something else, to cover up something else. All right, welcome to the 1% Club podcast, where we dive deep into habits, mindset, strategies of top performers who are pushing the boundaries of health, wellness, mental resilience, and entrepreneurship. I'm so happy today to have Todd Spafford on the podcast, entrepreneur, wellness advocate, A+ student. Someone who's experienced firsthand the challenges of balancing success and well-being. Today, we'll be exploring what it truly takes to build a life of lasting health, peak performance, and chasing ambitious goals. Let's get to it.
Great to be here, Sean. Thanks a lot for having me.
Absolutely. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Todd, can you give a little bit of a background, what you do for a career, what made you kind of get into health and wellness as well?
I grew up in Northern California, and I was always really into athletics, sports. I loved, playing baseball, golf, tennis, really active all the way through like high school. And then that continued into college, where I always had an interest. I'd play intramural sports and get out with the guys and pick up hoops and all that stuff. But as I got more into my 30s, I noticed that my body wasn't responding as well, and maybe some of that was aging, but it certainly felt like there was something mysterious going on. I felt like I was tighter than my friends. I felt like I wasn't increasing my flexibility through effort. I felt like weight training was giving me discomfort, and I couldn't get any answers. I really didn't know where to go or how to understand or what I needed to do to figure out how to get better. And this continued all the way into my 40s, and then the symptoms became a little bit more intense, and with time getting worse and worse. It started with like hip tightness and maybe some soft tissue discomfort and a lack of elasticity, and then eventually it became low back pain. And as you know, Sean, when you have low back pain, things can get really overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Confusing, right? So anyway, ultimately I ended up going to 3 different spine surgeons and getting all the imaging done on my back. And each time they would send me out of there and say, oh, you just need to get stronger. You need to do physical therapy. You need to lengthen your hamstrings and improve your posture. And when I would do all those things, it still wouldn't alleviate the symptoms. And that's actually when I was first introduced to you, was around 4 years ago, through the golf course at TBC.
Yes.
And the head pro there suggested I see you, and that's when you and me and Cameron started trying to put me back together. But the most impactful thing, in addition to the exercise, for me has been nutrition, because eventually I did get a diagnosis from a rheumatologist, and it was discovered that I have an autoimmune disease, which is this new, not new, but it's this all-encompassing word that includes all these different things. Essentially, what it meant for me was that I was reacting poorly to some of the foods that I was eating, and those foods were giving me inflammation. So no matter how hard you train or how much you swim or how many yoga classes you go to, if you're continuing to eat foods that trigger inflammation, you're never going to feel well.
Absolutely.
So for me, the turning of the corner here in these last couple of years has been primarily through nutrition in conjunction with continuing to work out.
Yeah, and I think that maybe well, not maybe, but the problem with medicine is they just want to stick you in a box. You got 10 boxes and, oh, Todd, there's a box right there. It's not that simple. And autoimmune disorders are created in the person's body, so they can be cured by the person's body, but we have to find why. Why are you having an autoimmune disorder? And I think that it's a double-edged sword. A person and a patient doesn't know where to go and access this information that's actually going to help them. And the patient then does not know what tests they should do. Primary care is not taught precision functional medicine or precision wellness. And then you go your whole life with having something wrong with you, and before you know it, you're in line at the pharmacy and you got 17 medicines in your pocket, one thing to cover up something else to cover up something else. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter what status you are, but when you're sick and a disease is inside of your body, it affects everyone the same. Yeah. And I think that's been my mission, is just to provide as much education to people as possible, because you never know how powerful a simple conversation can be with them. And I wish that I was into this 10 years ago, but I feel like maybe it helped us create the platform that we do today. So maybe you just come to Project Wellbeing, but you really don't. I think what happened was you got into our network, and by that I mean, like, I got access to pretty much anyone that I can ask anything to, and I can come back and we can help you if it's something that we can't help you with specifically. And I never mind sending anyone anywhere to get additional help for the body. I think I want to be clear with that, is if we need to refer you out anywhere or we got to go somewhere else, like, we got to do that. That's what the mission of Project Wellbeing to me was about, is creating a massive network to be able to actually help people.
I hear you. And just today, you and I brought in all my samples today, right? Because we're going after it in terms of brought in my poop and my pee and my saliva, and we drew some blood today as well, just as a part of the continuing education. Let's get some more answers. Let's find out what might be going on inside of me.
So, for listeners, we did a full health discovery with Todd. So we analyzed blood, the urine, the stool, DNA methylation, but specifically environmental toxicity and how your body processes toxins. It's so important. We just blocked red food dye. That's a huge change. The reason why you got all those tests, so we can actually help you and figure out the why. So now, when you say what you should eat, and you have a profoundly clean diet, but now you're going to know anything else that may cause you to have inflammation. How about this? You go and you seek after the top nutritionist or a doctor that prescribes you nutrition, but they never run a test on you to see what you should or shouldn't eat that's going to provide you inflammation. And what happens is you then follow something that someone tells you to do with little knowledge, not your fault, but from the physician or the doctor's fault or the nutritionist or the dietitian, and now you're following a plan that's probably not right for you for 2 to 10 years. Yeah. That happened to me as well. My entire spice and vegetable profile, I got, minor inflammatory markers on every single one of those. Nothing on nuts, grains, seafood, and meat, and poultry, which was what I was eating before. And so I want to make that clear to users, is you have power now as a person to go and get these tests. Like medical health and power has been placed into your hands. So you take your health into your own hands, and once you have that information, you can take that information anywhere now. You don't have to just use that here. It is now your information for your body. Like a Carfax report that you can go somewhere else and be like, I'm no longer willing to accept any less care than what is in this book to start off with. And that, I think, becomes very powerful. The caveat is, how soon can we test people? Do we test them at 50? I'd love to test. We're testing kids at 7 years old. The parents are wanting them to get tested with the parents' consent. Our physician can do that. So now, depending on what age you are, you're able to identify these things much sooner. You see genetic variants in the body much sooner. Maybe you were probably healthy before, but all these genetic variants that you were suffering from started building up. And then you felt them, when your body started changing at that age. So I think that the sooner you get the test done, and there's going to be more profound tests that come out later, but you have a baseline for yourself. You make what's acceptable for yourself. Never let anyone else dictate that.
Yeah, I have some personal experience in terms of the actual healthcare dilemma. It was the third spine surgeon that I went to see who bless his heart. He was a guy that I met actually swimming laps in the pool, and he was crushing laps next to me. And I thought, man, who is this guy? And I asked him, hey, what's your story? You're in here killing it. And as we got to small talk, he says, oh, I'm a spinal surgeon. I do trauma surgery. And I thought, wow, this is a guy that, I need to get another opinion here. I'm 4 years removed from the last time I saw a spine guy, and I still have these back problems. And he was the best I ran into. He spent maybe 60, 75 minutes with me in his office, and basically the entire premise was, look, Todd, here's your imaging. Your imaging doesn't look that bad. I don't see enough in the image to justify the levels of discomfort that you're feeling. You should go see a rheumatologist. So it was the spinal surgeon's extra effort and bedside manner and care to put me in a position. He said, I don't want to operate on you. You're not a candidate for surgery. So this all sounds so positive so far, right? Well, I get referred to a rheumatologist at UCLA, whose name I'm going to intentionally omit, although it's tempting to put her on blast, because after she drew my blood and she did my physical examination, she called me a week later and said, Todd, I know what's wrong with you. I know why you feel like, in your words, you're an 80-year-old, your body, you're trapped in an 80-year-old body. She said, you have non-radiographic spondyloarthritis. That was the term used to describe my condition, essentially inflammation of the spine. Well, I said, what do I need to do? How do I make it go away? And she said, well, we have this biologic medicine that you need to inject yourself with, a couple times a month. I said, well, what's that designed to do? And she said, slow down your immune system. And I thought, well, wait a minute, do I want to slow down my immune system? And she said, well, you have an overactive immune system. So this is what we do. We use this biologic medication, which incidentally, I did some research later on my own and found out this is a very powerful med. So I went in and did that research on my own, and I circled back with her a couple weeks later, and I said, do you have any other suggestions? I'm not ready to go down that route. And she said to me over the telephone, if you think you're going to make yourself feel better through any other means aside from taking this medication, you got, and then it was some flippant remark like, you got another thing coming, or something like, I was aghast. I couldn't believe that she would talk to me as her patient that way. But luckily, there was just yet another doctor who was a friend of a friend. He's an integrative medicine specialist at Mayo, and I told him what she said, and he said, hey, wait a second, Todd. We're starting to think in the medical community that autoimmune is related to nutrition, and there might be some things you can do to get with this, to take the edge off of this on your own. And that's what led me, actually, and I got to put a plug in here. I feel like it needs to be said because it's made such a difference for me. That's what led me to an elimination diet. And by elimination diet, we're talking about just eating one thing and one thing only to give your body a chance to reset before you reintroduce other foods and figure out the foods that trigger you. And what was that one thing and one thing only that I ate for 10 months? Red meat.
Can you say it louder?
Red meat.
There we go.
Red meat. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive. I get that. I had the same reaction myself. Oh my God, what am I doing? It's going to raise my cholesterol. It's going to clog my arteries. I'm going to have a heart attack. In fact, I even said those exact words to the yoga teacher that was my friend's yoga teacher, who had helped herself alleviate her autoimmune symptoms, and did so with this elimination diet, and did so by eating regenerative, grass-fed, organic, healthy red meat. And when she told me that that's what I needed to do, I said, oh, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. I'm going to have a heart attack. And I actually didn't do what she suggested I do for quite a few more months. I tried the brown rices and the lean chickens, and I'll just cut out the starches, and and I just never could get over the hump. And eventually I went back, red meat only. My body completely changed. My fingernails were growing, my hair was growing, my skin was healing, my sleep was better, my energy was elevated. So anybody out there who's struggling with an autoimmune disease, I highly, highly, highly recommend you ignore the conventional wisdom, ignore the narrative, ignore the vegans, and get yourself some steak, because steak heals.
And the crazy thing is, now imagine if we had run that full immunology report, IgG, IgE, IgA, the whole thing, we could have taken that elimination diet and dissected it within 3 weeks of how long the lab takes to send your results back.
Yeah, imagine that, how much that would have provided me and what a shortcut that would be. Conversely, what you end up with is you're in a room with a physician who may or may not have taken 1 or 2 nutrition classes.
I think they get 3 weeks of training on nutrition. Now, here's the other caveat. How did I find out about all this? I saw the quote unquote top infectious disease specialist in the US that worked for the government. Do you know what that told me, now that I think about it, is only if I were dying and there was nothing else that someone could do for me would I be entitled to take tests like this. That is wrong. And that is why we partnered up with Modern Wellness Clinic and we brought the tests here. I paid $17,000 to get tested, which is way overpriced. And then the worst part is I got no plan to follow. So I had all these things like, Sean, you're sick, you have this wrong, all your meta pathways are shut down and blocked. And then I got no plan. So all it did for 2.5 years was give me massive anxiety, like I was dying. And so it was a double-edged sword. But if that didn't happen, it wouldn't have been created today and become accessible, not only for people in Las Vegas, but we can prescribe these tests to anyone that lives in the United States.
I can't wait to get my results. I just gotta wait it out. I gotta wait it out.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to take what you already know and just fine tune it exactly to what you need. And yes, you did stool and urine tests. Why? Because that's where you excrete things. So we're gonna take a look and see what is your body excreting. If we have any issues there metabolically, we can address those. And then I feel like you have a bulletproof game plan specifically built for you as an individual. I think you should go back and whoever that lady was, go introduce yourself to her.
Yeah, I would actually, I'd like to. I really would. Or maybe I'll write her a scathing letter.
Because I hope what it would do is open up her mind and be like, maybe, imagine if you would have taken that biologic. I'll tell you what would have happened to you. You would be sitting here with me right now and you have 4 fucking other things wrong with you. I know that for sure. Your immune system would be completely obliterated.
That is a scary, scary, scary concept. And it fits right in with what's going on with our medical care system, right? Because you get something wrong with you, they address the symptoms, they give you a pill, that pill gives you new symptoms, and then you go get another pill.
Yes.
And now it's just a chain reaction until you're snowballing and taking more pills than you even know what to do with, So
again, getting, methylation tests of blood and urine, where you stop supplements for 5 days. Now we can see everything that you can consume, and only things that are causing you metabolic issues, we can prescribe those exact supplements for you. Nothing more, nothing less. You know what's worse than taking no supplements is going to the store or listening to people online and purchasing everything that you hear and then sticking those things in your body that are going to circulate and create more problems for you. Because you know why? Because that's what fear does. That's when the medical industry produces fear into a patient that makes them, because this happened to me for over 10 years. I used to take every single thing. I've spent, it's 6 figures minimum on supplements for 10 years easily. I would assume it's probably close to $250,000. Oof. And I'm in this industry, so that's me spending that much money. And what damage did I do in that time frame? I don't know. But the only thing that matters to me now is we have these resources that are becoming more available. And my issue is, how do I get these resources out to more people? And I think it just depends on, we do a great job with you, and hopefully you tell 5 of your friends and it clicks on them, and then we just start slow. Because this isn't a snap of the finger and everyone's gonna do it. It's just slow integration. But 10 years from now, I think medical looks completely different. I think the people, the citizens, are going to have power on how they can take care of themselves. And in other countries where healthcare is free, well, free doesn't mean shit either. Do you want something that everyone else can have, or do you want to place your health in your own hands and produce your own dictation and have a physician who focuses on precision functional medicine be like, hey, I think we should do X, Y, and Z, and maybe you should see the specialist, then come back and let me take a look at everything for you. That's the difference between primary care, which is like a 2 out of 10 help, and a precision functional medicine doctor that you place on your team that can be that coach for everyone else as well. I think a lot of the times we see, oh, this person's double board certified, this MD and this PT and this chiropractor and this massager, this trainer. Well, guess what? Who cares about their title? All I care about is how much they can help you. I think we hear all these titles, and everyone wants a title. Everyone wants a title at work. But at the end of the day, it's like, how are we actually helping people? Get rid of the title. I got 45 certifications. I used to depend on that for my title. I don't even care if people think I'm a janitor. What information can I get out to you in order to help you the most? And then how is that going to help you tell someone else?
Well, yeah, and the key difference between you and the the typical healthcare provider that you're going to come across in the U.S. is that you're trying to get to the cause, and they're just addressing the symptoms. And to me, that's the fundamental difference. Is they don't want to fix us, because if they fix us, we're not coming back. I mean, I saw a really cool, I wish I would have saved it, I saw a super cool Instagram reel from a spine surgeon. Maybe some of our listeners have seen it. The guy's out in Yellowstone or something like that, and he's taking a selfie video, and he basically explains, hey, I went through 10, 12 years of medical school, and I was making X amount of dollars, and I had to get out because I realized that the system is so broken that I'm giving surgeries to people, it's not helping them. I'm prescribing meds, it's not helping them. And I'm realizing that everybody around me, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, everybody's in business to keep the patients sick.
Yes.
And you think about that's a rabbit hole. You think about that long enough and you get depressed.
Yeah. And I want to touch on something. When you said I do this, is like there are so many online health coaches and this coach and this coach. Who do they actually have working with the patient or their client? Like for me, I'm a physiologist. What do I provide? I provide you a physician to go over your blood work, to prescribe you supplements, peptides, hormones, whatever the case may be. You have a physical therapist assigned to you, so we can take a look at your body, a doctor of physical therapy. You have your kinesiologist or your massage therapist, your biomechanics specialist, and then your professional coach. So although I may overlook and facilitate providing you with a team, but we have 6 or 7 professional people working with you, not some online coach that wants to have you get your blood work done and try to interpret that. And like, we all stay in our own lane, we all follow the law, we all practice what we should be practicing, but the most important thing is I was able to put you into a program where 7 different people have your best interest in mind.
Yeah, and the other thing that you've helped me discover is this overall, I know it's not your favorite term, biohacking. What's the term you prefer better? The health optimization?
Health span optimization, only because, you hear biohacking and let me phrase it this way. It's almost like there's 90% salesmen in biohacking. Yeah. It's crazy. They're going to hammer you from every which way. It's all salesmen with very few people actually practicing it, meaning that they've got a whole place where they put these things into practice. And now we're tagged up with influencers. I take this supplement, but 6 months later you drink that, and then you take that supplement. Well, what company do you actually work with? It doesn't matter. We don't care about the company we work with. We don't care what pharmacy that we need to go with. We don't care what brand of supplement. All that we care is we're giving you what you need. I'm not getting paid by any of these organizations to do anything. And I think that I'm going to keep it that way as well. So you as a client and a patient always have transparency for the things that you pay for. Yeah. And I think with trust is how we build the company and solidify, our integrity as a company, because there's trust there. I feel like once you lose your integrity one time in your life, that's it. You'll never get it back personally, and you'll never get it back in business.
Well, let's talk a little bit for the user's benefit about what we mean when we say biohacking, because we've touched on the nutrition aspect, right? And we know that you're a physiologist. We're doing workouts in here. We're getting kinesiology. We're getting body work, etc. But this place also has all these cool modalities that I have completely dived. Anyway, I'm in. I'm all in. And some of my personal favorites that I'd like to again give a little plug to, because I do feel like if you're suffering from inflammatory conditions, they are beneficial. I love the red light bed. I love the medical. I'm huge into the hyperbaric oxygen, as you know, Sean. I mean, I'm doing 3 sessions a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, of the breathing in the close to pure oxygen while my body's under pressure, oxygenating my cells, nourishing my brain. You know, this is like the other thing. On this note, I was telling you how I saw Dana White's reel or something like that, and he was talking about, well, don't eat this, and I don't eat this, and I don't eat that. And the first comment was, oh, well, that sucks. It sounds like you don't have fun. Like life is no fun. And then, because you're giving everything up. And then the second comment was, oh, I don't think you understand. Biohacking is about the most fun you can have. And that's the point I'm at now, whether it's the cold plunging, the laser bed, the hyperbaric, the infrared sauna. I mean, I'm doing intermittent fasting, the supplements we talked about, the nutrition we talked about. I'm doing extra virgin olive oil shots now in the morning, you know? You rewind 25, 30 years ago, I'm in college, completely clueless about health, wellness, nutrition.
Yes.
I'm eating Captain Crunch and Doritos, and now the only thing I drink is water. You know, that's it. Water.
Well, the funny, remember you said, what was your treat the other day? You sprinkled a little cilantro.
Yeah, cilantro. I got a dash of cilantro with my fresh organic avocado, or I get a little dash of cacao, the pure 100% bitter stuff on my pre-measured out berries. Because remember, I mentioned earlier that it was the switch to carnivore that really helped curtail my inflammation, and that is true. But I have slowly integrated a little bit of fruit. And some of our listeners might follow Paul Sandino, who used to be called the Carnivore MD, and he has pivoted to where he's primarily animal-based, but he has actually in his case, I think he eats a fair amount of fruit. I, on the other hand, am making an effort for now to stay in ketosis. I think for me, being in ketosis might be having an anti-inflammatory effect, and I'm kind of scared to get out of ketosis. So I do consume some carbs, but it's only organic fruits, and it's really just the ones that I believe are rich in antioxidants and polyphenols, because I love that whole adventure too of trying to boost the immune system that might be overactive. So that's what I do. I stay under 40 or 50 grams of carbs a day, and it's really just the olive oil shot, the berries, and then the cacao.
And here's the great thing. Now that you just did your health discovery, we'll check it again on a few of the tests. Some tests will need to be repeated, but we can check it again and make sure that what you're doing is not harmful for you, that it's actually helpful for you, and you just continue on there because we have data. You know, that brings up everything we do in this facility is data driven. You know, I don't think we were the first. And I'm going to say we are still the only facility that has learned and actually implements full biohacking with a full gym and personal training, with all your biomechanics testing, with PT, massages, full physician, all the testing, all the DNA tests, all the supplements, and we actually have it in use. It's not a fad. You know, every person is on a holistic program here. It's not fake. And now it's about how are we going to scale this? And I think I want to touch back on the medical hyperbaric chamber. So you're doing almost like a longevity protocol.
Well, yeah, and part of that, let's remember, is tied into the fact that you and I were both crazy enough to fly down to Colombia and get massive stem cell doses. Now, I don't know how much of that you've talked about in previous podcasts, but I can tell you that for me, I think 3 months, I'm about 13 weeks removed, and I didn't even exactly know what I was doing, but I trusted you. I loved the clinic. Of course, we went to the clinic that you're somewhat partnered up with, the BioAccelerator place in Medellin. Again, I'd give them a plug right now because talk about bedside manner, that they throw their arms around you. That place is like a family down there. And the facility itself is immaculate, super clean. I felt super safe. Everything seems state of the art. Of course, the listener's next question might be, well, bro, you know, how'd it work? You know, how do you feel? And the answer to that is, maybe I'll be invited to another podcast here in about 3 more months down the road, because it's still, in my opinion, too early to state what stem cells did or didn't do for me, because I'm working out more, I'm eating better, I'm doing all the other modalities, the plunging. It's very difficult to isolate one thing and say this had, you know, this level of impact.
Yes. And something I love about BioAccelerator, as you were there, is you didn't just go there to get stem cells. They did cryotherapy with you, they did hyperbaric chambers, they did ozone therapy. Prior to that, they got your body ready for the stem cell application to delineate a lot of your inflammation. Of course, you were here, so we did a stem cell proliferation protocol prior to you going there. And then you got the stem cells, but what did they enforce? You got physical therapy there. Then you come back, and I think when you come back is even more important than the actual stem cell application within itself is you follow the most stringent plan that you can to allow the stem cells for 3 to 12 months to actually work in your body. Because if you come back and you treat your body like crap, you just wasted your money. I think you came back, and out of anyone that I know, have been the most on point with the program. And I want to plug BioAccelerator on. They have, and almost with any other company that I've ever seen, not even in the stem cell community, is their customer service is outstanding. I've actually implemented some things that they do in my own customer service here, because they will call you even if you don't answer that phone 20 times, they're calling you 21 times. You know why? Because at that 21 times, like, damn, I either need to go back and get my stem cells, or I'm not picking up the phone because I know I'm not doing the things that I should be doing. But that whole program and how they've set it up, and then working with companies like Project Obene prior to going there, when you come back, making sure that that money that you spend there is not going to waste, that every person going to get stem cells, I feel like, has an intention to amplify their health, whether it be for pain or they're sick. You know, when I was there, one of the NFL players brought his dad that just suffered a stroke a week ago. I think that was incredible to see. There was also a gentleman that had an MMA accident that was going there every 3 months. I believe he's out of the wheelchair now. And if people don't want to believe that stuff is true, go online and look at it, because it is. But it's because the people are relentless with their pursuit, and the company is relentless with their application.
Yeah, it's funny. You go online and you do that research, and almost invariably you'll run into dialogue about, well, how many did you get? And how much did it cost? If you go onto Reddit or Facebook or wherever you go, that's what anyone who's been there, like I have, and I haven't on social media sort of released to my legion of followers. You know, just kidding. We know I don't have too many followers, but I haven't released to the world until now. I'm going public. Yeah, everybody, I got stem cells. And part of the reason I haven't done that is I didn't want to get bombarded with those questions. Well, how many stem cells did they administer, and how much did you pay? Yes. And the truth of the matter is that the quality of the stem cell is far more important than the number that you're getting.
And how many are alive at the time of application?
Yeah, that's right.
Because yes, there's other stem cell companies you can use. You thaw them out. How many are alive at the time? Some companies provide resources for that, and some don't. So that is the most important, because at that very moment, what is going inside of your body at that very time needs to be the facts. Needs to be how many stem cells are alive at the time. Yeah, you could say you've got 80 million stem cells, but what if 5% of them were alive? And the great thing is you can check these things with labs and under microscopes. You can check them. And I encourage people that are doing stem cells, that cell stem cells, check it. Because if someone comes to your place of business and they are sick, meaning that they got Lyme's disease, they've got dementia, they've got Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whatever it is that they've got going on, and in their mind they're coming there because they really need to improve on their actual health. This is not just for wellness and longevity. And you give them something where you don't fucking know what's inside of it, that's not good.
Not good. Remember how cool it was when they get you prepped for the administration of the cells, and then you'd see the nurse go jogging off to the other side, which right there in the facility, she's jogging to the other end of the facility, and then they're opening the door to the lab or the freezer or whatever it is, and the stem cells are coming out, you know, as fresh or frozen or whatever state they need to be in to give them the best. And then she'll literally jog back and hand them to the physician so you can get your shots.
You know what that did? Not only did they do that, but I feel like that provides complete transparency. You could see the lab in action connected onto the place where they're doing the medical procedures. And then you have a full report of exactly where the stem cells came from, yours individually, plus the potency, the availability of them, your full MRI reports. You have a team of multiple physicians, you know, getting put to sleep to get your discs injected into. I will repeat, there was no room for error. And in my case, 1 more millimeter of a herniation was going to touch on my spinal cord itself. So an injection that they weren't 100% confident that could go into my spine in L4 and L5 could have caused me some serious issues. They triple checked that. They brought in the neurosurgeon. I woke up fine. I got 11 discs injected into. You know, that's a big deal for me. You know, and why I went up there, I got full procedure done, we documented everything, and then we tell our clients and patients what we do, because again, that provides full transparency.
Well, when I was actually vacationing in Colombia, and you and I were in correspondence, and I had already knew that you had been there about 3 months prior to my vacation. And I thought, well, I'll just drop by the clinic. You know, I was wasn't sure I wanted to spend the money. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do. And so dropping by the clinic became dropping by the clinic again, became getting a hyperbaric, and then suddenly I'm getting an ozone, and then I'm meeting more and more doctors. And then, man, let's talk about one-stop shopping. When I start to say, well, maybe I'd want them in my shoulder, they said, well, how current is your MRI? And I said, oh, I got one at home, but it's not with me. I'm here on vacation. And they're like, well, if you want an MRI, we can get that done in 2 hours. And,
they got us MRIs at 11:30 at night. I want to give them a shout out too.
Yeah.
Their medical staff is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
You know,
every specialist I needed to see, they'd put me in front of, whether it be the orthopedic, like we talked about, the MRIs, all the blood work. And ultimately, it came down to the fact that for me, this is what got me to pull the trigger. When they looked at my spine imaging, and remember, that's kind of my primary symptom. I feel it in my extremities, and I feel tightness and sort of this lack of elasticity and this systemic inflammation. But it really is primarily around my sacrum, my lower spine, L4, L5, something you're familiar with, right? So they said, well, we're not going to make any moves until we've seen some fresh imaging of your spine. I said, okay, great. So that was a little bit grueling, because I was in the MRI machine long enough for them to do both hips, both shoulders, and my low back, right? But, sure enough, whether that was 10 o'clock at night or the next day, I now have the spine doc at BioAccelerator looking at my stuff, and he says, we don't want to administer stem cells in your spine. Your spine does not need stem cells. And in that moment, I said to myself 2 things. 1, hell yeah, because I'm scared of getting injections in and around my spine. I went through a PRP thing with some hack doctor here years ago. It messed me up for a few days. No good, no relief. Now, also, that's general anesthesia. So I'm at the stem cell clinic on vacation. The homies are, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, I want to keep going to this biohacking place, right? When they said they didn't want to inject my spine, 2 thoughts. First one, oh my God, I don't have to worry about being afraid of that. And my second thought was, any place that would turn down the cash and actually convince me that I don't need a particular treatment, probably the most expensive of the treatments they could have sold me, they just immediately earned my trust. I thought, you know what? Let's do it. And the next day I signed on the dotted line and paid a pretty penny and got them administered all over my body. It just didn't happen to get them in my low back.
I think that's incredible. And that's what makes me work with certain companies. We're extremely careful with who we associate ourselves with. And, and I think that that's why, when the owner Eric came to visit Project Obene, he was in close consideration of what we do here now. I think I've probably had over 100 clients now do full procedures at BioAccelerator.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic.
Which is amazing. I hope the number can go to 1,000 in 2 years from now. But it is life changing. And for me, I had very little pain in my back for almost 4 months, and I had chronic pain in my back and my neck for over 10 years.
And you were not the model patient coming back to town.
No, I hate to say that. They know I'm not answering the phone. I'll tell on myself. It just, obviously, I let work and stress really delineate me from the proper care I should have taken care of myself, but from not doing all of the right things and from feeling a relief like that of pain, that was the belief. And again, getting put to sleep to get your discs injected into. That's why a lot of places don't do it, because it can go wrong if you don't have the exact imagery, knowledge, and the people who are specialized in that working with you at that one time.
How many hyperbaric sessions have you done in your post-stem cell?
Post-stem cell, I can tell you not enough. Like sporadically here or there, which is an excuse because I own the place and can do it anytime. But it's just because I own a wellness company, at the end of the day, I'm still an entrepreneur. And anyone listening to this that's an entrepreneur, whether we like it or not, you'll take care of yourself stringently for 6 months, and then you feel better, so you forget about it again.
Well, she called me, one of their their follow-up lady. She called me about, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, at the 3-month mark, and she asked me, how are you doing? I said, man, to tell you the truth, I am feeling better and better. I feel like I'm mending, I'm getting stronger, my body's changing, I feel like I'm thriving, but I'm not ready to give you guys all the credit just yet, because I'm also doing this, and this. And she said, hey, you know what? Hang in there. I make these calls all the time. You're only at the 3-month mark. We don't typically see the real optimal results until 6 months or later. And I said, well, you know what? I can't wait for the 6-month mark yet, because you haven't had a patient come home and work any harder than I'm working in terms of how disciplined, no exception.
This is a good analogy. Stem cells, they're like a rocket. They're going to launch you off quickly, but they need direction. And what I mean by that is you need to follow a program from professionals with direction so you can get them to work in their best usage and intention in your body.
Well,
and I think you're right. I got to give you, it's an A++ because you almost turned it into a second job for yourself on the way that you take care of yourself now.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder if I should be getting benefits maybe from Project Wellbeing, medical and dental or something, as many hours as I spend here.
I don't think we're not on the Brian Johnson line yet of probably 10 hours a day. But again, I think even though it takes you a lot of time, I feel like you have now made it into a manageable program for yourself that you can continue doing, that you kind of worked into your life a little bit. Of
course.
And that's important, because doing something for 3 months or 30 years, what's more important? 30 years, but it's got to be manageable.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm in a fortunate situation where I am at a place professionally where I can allocate the time and allocate the money. So it's funny when people talk to me about, it's such a sacrifice. How do you do it? They ask me, how do you do it? How do you set your alarm for 6 o'clock in the morning and go walk the dog for an hour before you drive 20 minutes to get to PWB and then spend 5 hours there? And honestly, my answer is it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It doesn't. It gets back to what I was saying before about how much fun it is to biohack. I'm excited every day to wake up and eat right and exercise and get in my modalities and get my stretches in and treat my skin right and ditch my seed oils and ditch my microplastics and detoxify my kitchen. Yesterday, I have a lady that comes over and helps me clean my house a couple times a month. And when she showed up at the front door, she had the biggest smile on her face because she said, Todd, I got it. And she opened up a box and showed me that she got a bunch of, environmentally friendly, toxin-free chemical cleaners.
Yes.
Because my house used to smell crazy like Fabuloso when she would walk out the door, right? And so again, all that stuff, whether it's the olive oils, I'm totally into intermittent fasting. People say, oh, well, how do you do that? Why are you skipping breakfast every day? I get so hungry. No, I love the concept that, I'm fasted right now. I've already worked out some. I'm going to work out with you after the podcast, and I'm fully fasted. People say, oh, you can't work out fasted. Everybody has all these limiting beliefs, a lot of which I believe come from the conventional wisdom. So I don't think, like some of my closest friends are like, well, Cameron, my number one trainer here at Project, he's always joking with me saying, Todd, you're just built different. You're built different. Well, we laugh about that. A lot of that is just us clowning around, having a good time while we're working out. But really, I think part of that is he does see an effort from me that he doesn't necessarily see from his other clients. And I don't know that means I'm special or gifted. I think it just means that somehow I've attached this satisfaction and this feeling of reward by giving it my best effort. And probably that stems from how shitty I used to feel, right? And if desperate times call for desperate measures. Absolutely. If your body feels great, I was joking around this morning with one of the professional athletes that comes in here, and I was teasing him, and I said, "Hey man, how come I never see you in recovery? Is that just because you're 25 years old and bulletproof?" He's like, "No, I'm in here recovering when you're not around." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So, and by the way, for me personally, one of the things I enjoy the most about this process, and particularly about doing it with you and doing it with your team, is the energy that's in the facility. I mean, I mentioned the professional athlete today, right? Also, I had another conversation with a completely different professional athlete in a completely different sport, and we're talking about recovery and cold plunging and maximizing workouts. The energy in here is really elite. You come in, you want to work. In fact, that same pro athlete that told me that he's been recovering when I'm not around, on his way out the door, he looked over his shoulder, he looked at me, and he said, "What is this, another day off?" And I said, "What, you calling me out? You calling me out?" And the reason he said that is because I was on the recovery table and Cameron was doing some kinesiology work, right? So while I'm getting recovery, this pro athlete wants to look at me, the old man, and give me a hard time for taking another day off. I said, no days off. First we do the podcast, and then Sean and I are going to work out at 1. He said, okay. So how cool was that for me to have like this built-in accountability partner from a guy who's an elite world-class athlete? You're not getting that at EOS Fitness.
Yeah, and I think what it does is, as profound or cool it is for you to be able to interact like that. When these young players, you have no guidance in business or anything, and they're, the first thing they want to do is buy a car or a chain, or their family takes their money. How important and how many conversations in here have they gotten the chance to talk to entrepreneurs, and they have helped them with investments or finances? And that was really powerful for me, because some of these people grow up in really rough lives, and then they get a whole bunch of money, but then they don't change the circle of people that are around them. And we've seen this over and over and over again. And that's been part of my mission, is be like, let's figure out who this person is underneath of their uniform. Yeah. And have them discover themselves not as an athlete, but who they are as an actual human being, so they can take control of their life far beyond their very short time in athletics. Yes. How do they use their platform for that very short time, in athletics?
Maybe there is, and I haven't really given this some serious thought, but maybe there is sort of this contagious feeling around here of kind of being on the right track. If you're here and you're putting in the time and you're putting in the effort and you're putting in the financial commitment, right? Then maybe it's kind of like you walk in the door. It's like, okay, yeah, this place and these people here are intentional. And you're mentioning the finances. I mentioned earlier the working out or the recovery. I think it's contagious. I think, I want to get in here every day. I like the staff. I like the banter. I like you. But what I really like the most is the fact that, there was a retired pro athlete in here today. Guy looks like he could still play. I mean, he's throwing weights around, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, okay, I'm just this scrawny middle-aged guy trying to kind of pull myself together, but there I am doing my kettlebell swings or whatever it is right next to him. I think the feeling's contagious, man. I really do, and I credit you. I think some of that is your culture, and some of it is your personality, and honestly, some of it is just what you've put out. If you're going to have the best machines. We haven't even talked about the Kaiser machines. My friends don't even know what those machines are. And now I'm sending them Instagram links and trying to talk about concentrics and eccentrics and shit that I didn't even understand before, right? Now I don't think I want to go back to working out on a universal machine or a free weight when I can have a Kaiser machine, right? So yeah, the place, I might be sounding a little bit like a fanboy, but like your other trainer, Jake and I are always joking around about endorphins, right? And some days I'll just come up to him towards the end of one of my workouts and be like, bro, I'm feeling it right now. Like, I'm feeling it. He said, oh, you feeling it? And he knows that what I'm saying is that I'm feeling this sort of high that you get from doing the right thing and from moving the weights around, right? So,
and I really appreciate that. And I think that the most profound compliments I get is when people stop coming here, and I'll tell you what happens. They come back and they say, we felt the best when we were at Project Bean with a program and you were pushing us. So this isn't just like here, go and do this workout. This is not generic. This is not the place for people that don't want to excel. This is not the place if we need to hold your hand. And what I mean by that is, we're going to give you the absolute best recommendation for you as an individual. We're going to give you every tool and resource to guide you and to help you. And this is why I got so into mental health and awareness, is because if your mind isn't right, your body cannot follow. I'll say it again. If your mind isn't right, your body cannot follow. And that is my new mission for this year, is how to implement that into what we're doing, because it doesn't matter who you are, but none of us are susceptible to not have our minds slip in and hinder our life, our personal life, our business, our performance, and our health.
All you got to do here is just come in the door. Because if once you come in the door, the team's going to support you. You see the other people doing what they're doing. The energy's contagious. If you can get yourself here, which somehow I do manage to do just about every single Monday through Friday. A lot of people like to say they work out every day. I go to the gym every day. I've noticed that a lot of people say every day. Really what they mean is Monday through Friday. So I'm not going to lie and say I work out every single day. I don't. I oftentimes take weekends off, or maybe, have what do we call it? A resting recovery, right? Or
I think that's way better. Let your body, like I used to try to work out every single day. That also creates metabolic deficiencies in the body too. Your body needs time not only to rest, but to adapt. Yeah. I want to hit on just a couple of the entrepreneur questions. Okay. So entrepreneurship and sports betting industry can be incredibly high pressure. How have you managed stress and mental health throughout your career doing that?
That's a great question. Especially the interesting component of this for me is the tie-in to stress and a physical manifestation of symptoms. Okay, so I've had it asserted to me by more than one medical professional or friend or Instagram reel or TikTok university. I've had it asserted like, Todd, maybe your symptoms, your pain are directly correlated to your stress levels. We all know about your stress and what it does to you and raising cortisol and interfering with sleep. My stress levels right now are lower than they've been probably in a long, long time, primarily because I've had a measure of success, and I'm sort of retreating. I'm in a mode now where I'm working less. I'd rather be biohacking, honestly. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I admire it in others. But for me personally, right now, I'd rather be doing lunges than studying markets or day trading or the other things I could be doing with my time. But to finish, I just want to say that right now, based on where my pain levels are and where they've been through this last couple years, for me personally, I don't think stress was a contributing factor. I think my symptoms were purely physiological. Now that, again, I can't necessarily prove that, because other people might say, oh, well, come on, you've been working less lately. And I just in my gut, that's where I feel. And so maybe I had some secret sauce accidentally to where I could deal with stress. I will say that I was very, very stressed and troubled as a young man. And this is a story that you might not know. I'll keep it brief, but I was actually institutionalized at 17 and a half years old. I like to use that word institutionalized because it's pretty dramatic. But typically most people say they went into rehab. And that's what I did. I went into a teenage detox, alcohol, marijuana. Those were my two drugs of choice at 17 and a half years old. I was truant from school. I was maladjusted. I was underperforming, underachieving. I was at odds with my mom in a single parent household. And when that thing all boiled over, I ended up in a chemical dependency treatment center. And that was April 3rd of 1987. I'm 55 years old today. And that's my sobriety date. I've been alcohol free. I might have had a moment where I went back to nature. But as far as a chemically induced, I'm alcohol free for 38 years. So yeah, thank you very much. And I think that at that age, that was a process, man. I didn't do 6 weeks and get out in the world and then figure it all out. I did 6 weeks and then I went into a longer term treatment facility, which was what they call like a halfway house or a residential facility. Yes. I did 8.5 more months there, finished high school in there, and then upon graduation, if you will, from the residential treatment facility, I moved immediately to what was 1 year removed from being the #1 party school in the nation. A little college in Northern California called Chico State. And Chico had just been on the cover of Playboy magazine and being the top party school in the nation. And I white knuckled it, man. That's must have been where I learned my discipline, because I would walk around those fraternity parties and I lived in an apartment complex called the Zoo. And it was called the Zoo because of how hard everybody went. And I was, 10 months sober, and I was thinking, wow, these people taught me. In that facility, they taught me that if I drink that stuff again, I'm gonna be unhappy, I'm gonna be dysfunctional, and I'm probably gonna die. And I firmly believe that was the case for me, that I do have this addictive trait, this addictive gene, whether you believe in nature, nurture, physiology, DNA, the writing was on the wall for me. So that, I'm sure, that experience probably did a great deal to teach me how to control my emotions, how to communicate, how to process things, right? So maybe I have been okay with managing my stress through the years, and maybe I haven't been coping with alcohol. I might have been coping with food there for a little while, enjoying some chocolates and some, what is it, red number 5 or, yellow number, all that poison. But and last thing I want to say about that is I do believe that experience and my dedication to being alcohol free has probably put me in a very good position to be dedicated to biohacking and wellness. And let's be honest, full disclosure, if I have an addictive personality and I'm a little bit OCD, it might be that some of my addictions have pivoted to something that's a lot more healthy. Yes. So, and maybe, again, that's another thing my friends are teasing me about is when we go out to dinner and we sit there for 2 hours and they'll see me not take a bite of food. And it's like, well, dude, you're antisocial, you're this, you're that. How are you so disciplined? You're watching us eat tacos and you don't take a bite. Well, if you can cut off, if you have an alcohol addiction and you're able to do the work to get that thing under control, saying no to a quesadilla, from Roberto's gas station that's full of seed oils and lard and everything else.
That's harder for people. It gets like mind blowing. I also don't drink alcohol either, and it's like I could go out anywhere, and I'm not affected by what other people do. Honestly, at 2 a.m., then everyone else gets annoying, and it's time for me to go home. But the problem is that people are so not okay with themselves that they can't have a good time and socialize without putting themselves in another state of mind, and that's the real problem.
Yeah.
I don't need those things to have a good time. Now I enjoy talking because you used alcohol and marijuana as a drug. I grew up with a single mom and no dad. I used work as a drug. I'll repeat that. I used work like a drug. If I was in any other industry, I'd be a kingpin billionaire with the amount of time that I put in. I wouldn't let anything affect work for me. It was one way or no way, and there was nothing or no one could stop me from working. That is obviously a problem. I identified that, but it took me a long time. Took me a long time to identify that's just as bad as doing drugs, smoking, alcohol, whatever the fact may be.
Well, that's debatable. That's debatable.
It was bad up here.
There's going to be dysfunction and symptoms related to the different things that you can get addicted to. But trust me when I tell you that I'd rather be, like in my case, addicted to biohacking or in your case, addicted to work than I would be, addicted to opiates.
Well, I think the funny part is, we call each other, we're sitting in the sauna, which I think is hilarious, but that's what, like, hey, come, like, I get invited to all these networking events with all these entrepreneurs, right? Cryptocurrency shit. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something. I'm going to invite high-end people that I know that are big entrepreneurs, and we can sit in the sauna and network and have a conversation. Yeah. I don't need to put on a front for 20 people that are never going to talk to me again. That I'm over that. You know.
Well, the cool thing too, man, is with the entrepreneurial stuff as well as with our biohacking stuff. It's like a movement, right? And where I'm sure you see it, day in, day out because you're in the business. But for somebody like me who's not in the business, where I'm seeing it is social media, is that it's not the masses, it's not the majority, right? I still see a crazy 14-car line in the McDonald's drive-thru in my upper middle class suburban Summerlin, right? And I'm thinking to myself as I'm driving by these 14 cars that are in the McDonald's drive-thru, I'm thinking, wow. Like, to me, it's mind-blowing that they would be sitting in their car waiting for an opportunity to eat food that you would probably have to put a gun to my head to get me to eat. Not because I'm any better than them, but just because right now I believe still we're in this phase where it's like the minority. So speaking to this minority, it's really neat when you're out and about and you're socializing or whatever, and then you meet someone else and oftentimes, Sean, from what I'm noticing, it's younger people. It's younger people. It's not, we have guys my age here, no question. I mean, there's a guy here whose name I'll leave out. No, Dave, Beast. We got guys here in their 70s that are just throwing weight around. Yeah. But again, I believe this is more the exception. Generally speaking, old dog, new tricks, right? They've been eating, Doritos and Oreos for 30, 40 years. It's the young people that are catching on to this movement. And then when I have my interactions with them out in the real world now, it's super cool because it might just be one reference that I make where I say something like, oh yeah, they say, let's do a shot. And then I'll mumble, oh, the only shots I do are olive oil shots. Yeah. And their eyes perk up and they're like, wait, you do olive oil? Well, what else do you do? I mean, I was hanging out with a group this last weekend at the Wynn, and all they wanted to talk about, and these are like mid-30s, all they wanted to do was pepper me with questions about cold plunging and, diet and nutrition. And by the way, there was, again, another carnivore plug. There was about 10 people in this group, all of them from out of town except for me. And of the 10 people, the two guys that seemed to be getting all of the, I don't want to say attention or compliments or whatever, was me and this other young fella. This kid's about 36. He looks about 24. And guess what diet he's on? Carnivore. No. So all these other people are asking this kid, like, what's your secret? What are you doing? And at some point, one person put it together because my friend was teasing me, oh, your skin's glowing. You look so radiant. He's blah, 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 blah. And then another guy jumped up and goes, wait a minute, what is it? It's these two dudes that look so much different. Now, he didn't necessarily know that we looked healthy or whatever, but to him, it was just that we looked different, and both of us are on the carnivore diet.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because I look a little different, too. I always tell myself, like, I wonder what people think about, I'm rolling around in a place like, what do they think about me at this medical conference? But I promise you that making a choice to get all the tattoos, including committing to getting your head tattoo, I'm going to use, knock on wood, not only has it not affected me, it is almost made such a positive impact in myself, because all I did was bring out my internal expression out onto my skin. But because of the way that your mannerisms and your energy and the knowledge, people don't even care about that stuff.
The younger people, I think maybe in the old guard, they might still be.
In Whole Foods, I got 7-year-old grandma coming up and she's rubbing an elbow with me. And I'm just laughing because I'm in a 10-minute conversation with her. But obviously, I've been a therapist before, a physical therapist before. So being like a body worker, I think that was it was a gift for me. I never intended on doing that. I was going to school for mechanical engineering at first, but it's an energy thing. So before they even see you, they can feel me.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. Like, before someone can see me, they can feel me. And I think it's important for people to understand that, because I have a very unique gift on how to use my intuition on how to read someone.
Well, maybe we were joking the other day, maybe it's those stem cell shots we took in our faces, because both of us did take the needle to our face.
You know what's funny? Okay, before I was nervous to go there to get put to sleep, right? For my back. That was totally fine. I don't know how women do that, man. The injection in the face, they hurt.
it hurts.
I mean, I have to say, I think it's glowing a little bit, but I was like, I said, yeah, put me to sleep to do my back. I'm going to have to rethink the face. So I give props to, anyone that's putting injections into their face and their head,
And
because
the
that
scalp.
hurt.
Yeah. Funny too. You took the shots to the scalp. I took the shots to the scalp too. The dermatologist, when she was administering those shots to me, she said, hey, we've seen some crazy stuff happen with these procedures in the scalp. I said, for example, like what? And she said, well, on a rare occasion, we might see someone's curly hair become straight, or we might even see someone's hair color change. But for the most part, the idea was that you might be able to, as a middle-aged guy like myself, I might be preserving my existing hairline, which I might add seems to be doing okay. Now, I will say I have not witnessed any new hair growth, which she said some people have, but again, it's only been 3 months. So maybe in 6 months, you'll see me with a different hairline. I don't know. But as far as the face was concerned, what she told me was, you might not ever see it. You don't think that we're going to inject these stem cells and exosomes into your face and that you're going to walk into the bathroom and see a difference. She said, but what you might notice is that people you haven't seen in a while are talking about your skin. And that's exactly what happened to me over this last weekend. So was it the stem cells? I don't know. Is it the pure eating? Is it the perfectly filtered water that I'm drinking? Is it the hyperbaric oxygen? Is it the red light? Is it the infrared? I don't know. Oh, by the way, another plug, beef broth. I know you're on beef broth. Bone broth, to break the fast, everybody, if you can ever get into intermittent fasting and the first thing you put in your tummy every day is bone broth, it is so healing and so nourishing and so full of wonderful collagen.
I drink coffee and bone broth for my breakfast per se. I'm good to go without food for 8 to 10 hours easily.
Mind over matter.
No problem.
If you don't mind, it don't matter.
Yeah, and like yourself, I hate eating before working out. Absolutely hate eating. When I played sports, I never ate before. My body is completely used to working off of my fasted metabolism. I got some electrolytes. I'm good to go. And when I eat, my blood sugar levels all over the place. I do not feel good. It's just. Anyone out there, try it, because once you try and you feel the difference and you put your body on it, you put your body on a schedule. Don't let your body put you on a schedule.
Autophagy, man. Autophagy is getting a lot of love on the internet these days about the process of cleansing and your body's cleaning out its damaged cells and disease cells and whatever else. So great way to stay lean as well.
Affected your well-being, but I think you answered that in the first.
That.
Yeah, a lot of you answered, like, now in your 50s, what does longevity mean for you? You kind of answered 4 of my questions at the beginning, which was great. I really appreciate the way that you answered the type of feeling and the environment that's in here, because I
got you, bro.
That is the most important part to me. It's not all the stuff that we have and we do and the millions of dollars of equipment, but when you come in and you're feeling that way, that keeps a person coming back.
That actually wasn't rehearsed either. That was genuine. I was rambling on about something else, and that just caught on me. Well, of course I love coming here. Like, why do I love going? It must be because it feels great to come here.
18 months, 24 months, we're going to have Project Bean version 2. We'll probably end up keeping this one open. Version 2, I can promise you, there's going to be something special.
Version 2, what side of town is it going to be?
Oh, it's over here. Over here, we're trying to go like a mile or two away.
Does it make sense for you to have 2 so close to one another?
That's for my advisory board to answer.
I understand.
Having an advisory board, best decision I ever made, but damn, they cook me up, man. You want some real answers, they're going to give you some real feedback. But I love getting constructive criticism now. When my old ego in the past would never let that happen. Now I'm like, just tell me what sucks, and I'll focus on that and make it better.
Yeah, that's great.
I want it all.
That's
great.
Give
me the constructive criticism.
Yeah, I only had one thing about this place, and I made one mention of it. I one day found myself needing to bring my swim trunks home wet, and so I mentioned to Allison, who by the way also kicks ass. I mentioned to Allison, I said, no, we ought to have plastic bags in the men's bathroom so we could carry our wet clothes home. And the very next day, Allison comes up to me in the gym and she's scrolling through her phone and she's like, what do you think of these? And she's asking me for my input on which plastic bags you're going to put in. Now that might sound petty and or hey, making a big deal out of something that's so small. But think about that as the customer immediately responds to my needs and then asks me for my input. And then I tell her to buy the cheap bags, and she says, no, I don't want to buy those. We're an upscale gym. Nothing about those suggests that they're upscale. So now we have bags in the men's restroom that are so nice that I make sure to take them home and put them to other uses. I can't bear to recycle them.
And, I think anyone listening to this is your employees at the front desk or whoever it is, your customers are going to engage with those people probably the most. Those are the gems. Go and talk to your employees and listen to what people are saying to them, because they're gonna give them those little feedback issues that may never make it up to the owner, and it's probably not supposed to. Yeah. And because it didn't, that means that we're doing a good job from the upper level, because they, we give them freedom. Hey, if decisions need to be made like that, go ahead and make those. Because why? The client experience is really important for me here.
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite example of how cool it is to work with the front desk staff is that this text messaging is just so unbelievably convenient. So we have the app. And the app is badass, and I'm always scheduling my modalities on the app, and I'm double checking, what's today? I can't even keep it straight in my head because I'm doing so many things, right? Is today Pilates? Is today PT? Is today training? Well, my first glance, I'll go to the app, and then if for whatever reason I'm uncertain or I need help, I can just fire off a text message. Now, I don't always know who's answering because they don't necessarily announce, hey, maybe we ought to have them do that. Come to think of it, maybe they ought to do that. Maybe they say, hey, this is Darian. But what we
tried that before, but then when the staff switches, they're like the client's like, oh, I thought I was talking to Darian. They're like, well, no, because it could also be from one of our other offices getting back to you.
So to me, I just picture it's the nameless, faceless entity, but I know whomever it is, they're probably cool, and they're definitely going to help me. And they'll juggle my appointments around. They'll help me with the cancellation, changing the time. So that is quite a luxury. Again, I believe that is a good example of sort of the high-end feel here. That personalized service that you're just not going to get at Lifetime. I'm not texting anybody at Lifetime.
I don't know. You walk into there, and then you got three people in the suit at the front desk. I ended up hating that for some reason. I was like, that has a wrong feeling to me. Something about this doesn't feel right. Well, I used to think, oh, this is a diamond club, and I'm like, something is off. They've missed the mark somewhere. Something went wrong. I don't know. It was a weird thing.
Here's a funny Lifetime story for you. About 3 or 4 months ago, because I hadn't canceled my membership yet. The one thing you don't have is Olympic-sized swimming pool, and they had that over there, so I kept my Lifetime membership. Now, I was using the in-body scale one day at Lifetime. Okay, use the scale, wrap it up. I'm out of there. 2-3 days later, my phone rings. I see Lifetime Fitness on the caller ID. I'm like, oh, they're probably going to remind me that my friend has a facial scheduled or whatever. So I pick up the phone, and it's this guy who announces to me who he is, and he's kind of got this aggressive tone to him. And he says, "Are you Todd Spafford?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am." And he says, "Were you in Lifetime Fitness on Sunday, whatever, throw in the date, Sunday, September 11th?" I said, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but that's entirely possible. Yeah. And he says, "Were you upstairs using the Life Body scale?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds very much like something I would do." And he said, "Did you have your shirt off?" And at that point, I was like, okay, I don't like how this is going. And I said, "Buddy, I do not appreciate the fact that you're asking me questions that you already know the answer to. Do you not have a security camera upstairs? Do you not have me checked into the facility? Did you already not know that I was there? So you knew it was me." He says, "Well, I'm just investigating the incident." And at that point, I lost it. I said, "You got to be freaking kidding me that you're going to call me up on my phone on my time away. You're going to call me up and start talking about me being involved in an incident?" He says, "Well, you took your shirt off on the, and so that, again, that's that corporate, he, again, not to fault him, he's following directions. Somebody up above him is telling him that he needs to call Todd Spafford. Did he need to treat me like that? Did he need to browbeat me the way he did? Perhaps not. Maybe he was having a bad day. I don't know. But not to scare anybody, but if you have your shirt off here at Project Wellbeing, you're probably not going to be given a very hard time. You very well could be walking out of the red light. You might be getting a shockwave session. You know, you might have been on the PEMF. Heck, you might be flexing for your girlfriend.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And here's the thing: you can't even take your shoes off and nudge them. Here, you can train bare feet. Please don't drop a weight on your foot. Knock on wood. But why?
I haven't had shoes on in this facility.
If you
other
drop
than
a weight with or without your shoe on, it's probably going to break something.
Yeah, I think, Sean, I've had my shoes on in this facility less than 3 times in the last 3 months. I'll use slides to come in and out. I'll use my slides in the Vitality Spa, and in the gym I put my socks on and work out barefoot.
And please, okay. So if there's, I don't ever want to have to call you and tell you and say, Todd, did you have your shoes on in the sauna? I don't think it's happened before, but that would do it for me.
Incident. Let's not forget that they want to call it an incident. So they want to put the client on the defensive, make me feel like I'm involved in some sort of like sexual harassment charge or something like that, over taking my shirt off on the Life Body
with the
Scale.
right training and mentorship, that could have been handled way better.
Hey, by the way, the Life Body Scale, you have one of those here. You also have, I'll let you tell the listeners what it's called, but that much more sophisticated. Is it DEX?
Yeah, we have a full DEXA scan here.
Scan.
So that's the number one tool to be able to check your, not only your full bone mineral density, your body fat, most importantly, the fat in between and inside of your organ cavity. It uses a low level X-ray. And then our physician can go over in more in depth if you actually have low bone mineral density, but that is 20 times more effective than getting on an in-body.
Yeah, I guess
we got
what?
the in-body here, but you can take your shirt off and go on the in-body. I'm not going to call you later.
Right.
You know, that's
Right.
kind of bizarre. But
I got a little bit of a reality check, by the way, going from the in-body to the DEXA. Ever since I switched to carnivore, I've been kind of enjoying the fact that I'm getting leaner and leaner, right? So I would go to the Life Body and, you know, I don't know where I started exactly. I wasn't obese, but I was inflamed and my body composition wasn't ideal. I wasn't athletic. Yes. Well, I watched it drop from 13% body fat on the Life Body Scale to 11, and then it was 10, and then it was 9, and then it was 8, and then it was 7.5. And then lately it's been 8, 8.5, and then your staff was like, Todd, let's get the DEXA. Dude, 17.5% body fat according to DEXA, and then I went directly from there after I got my ego crushed. I went from the DEXA scan to your Life Body, and it said 8.9. So to all of you out there who, like me, were bragging to your friends about having low body fat because you got your body fat tested on a Life Body, don't believe the hype.
DEXA scan, it's going to tell you the truth. It's going to write the truth on a piece of paper for you.
Bro, I didn't like that.
It's 99% effective, but Life Body costs $15,000. A DEXA scan is a 6-figure item. So not saying that price is indicated of the result you're going to get, but data on equipment like that is 99% accurate.
Dude, I feel like I got to go back and apologize to my friends that saw me beating my chest saying, look at me, I'm 55, my body fat's 9%.
Well, that's
now
okay.
I'm
But
like,
if they might get tested, they might be like 38%. That could destroy them. So we'll keep it, let them just, filter through. That's a wrap for today's 1% podcast. Todd, thank you so much for being here today. Obviously, I enjoy your friendship beyond business, and I really hope that listening to this with other people would inspire them to take care of themselves the way that you've chosen to kind of incorporate that into your life. Stay tuned for the episode to drop, and thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, dude. You and I talk like this all the time, even without the microphones and whatever else. So I think for both of us, it's our favorite thing to talk about. So yeah, I enjoyed myself. Hopefully I'll come back and do it again. Maybe we could do like a post-stem cell.
I think post blood work, post stem cell.
Okay.
Because we'll be able to go through the data.